Dae-ho Kim wiped the grease from his hands and looked at the massive ship docking outside Repair Bay 7. The vessel was unlike anything he had seen in his 15 years working at Kepler Station. Its hull gleamed with a crystalline surface that seemed to bend light around it. The ship was 3 times larger than the biggest human cruiser and moved with a grace that defied its enormous size. Bo-Ra Lee looked up from her workstation and whistled softly. She had been tracking the ship's approach for the past hour, and the readings on her scanner made no sense. The energy signatures were off the charts, and the propulsion system seemed to work on principles that human science barely understood. Woo-Jin Park dropped his welding torch and stared through the observation window. He had repaired thousands of ships, but never anything like this. The hull plating appeared to be grown rather than manufactured, and there were no visible seams or joints anywhere on the surface. The communication system crackled to life, and a deep voice filled the repair bay. The universal translator struggled with the alien syntax but managed to convert the words into something understandable. "This is Captain Velthar of the Crystalline Hegemony warship Eternal Radiance requesting immediate repairs to primary propulsion systems." Dae-ho grabbed the microphone and responded in his usual calm manner. "This is Repair Bay 7 Chief Engineer Kim. We can handle your repairs, but I should mention that we have 3 other repair facilities on this station with more advanced equipment." There was a long pause before the alien captain replied. "I specifically request human repair services. I have heard things about your methods." Bo-Ra and Woo-Jin exchanged puzzled looks. They had never heard of alien ships specifically requesting human repairs. Most alien captains viewed human technology as primitive and barely functional. The docking procedure took another 30 minutes as the massive ship carefully maneuvered into position. The magnetic clamps that normally held human ships in place groaned under the weight of the alien vessel. Several warning lights flashed on the control panel, but the docking system held. Captain Velthar emerged from his ship through an airlock that materialized in the crystalline hull. He stood nearly 8 feet tall with skin that looked like polished stone and eyes that glowed with an inner light. His uniform seemed to be made from the same crystalline material as his ship. Dae-ho walked over to greet the alien captain and extended his hand in the universal gesture of greeting. Velthar looked at the offered hand for a moment before clasping it awkwardly. His grip felt like touching warm marble. "Welcome to Repair Bay 7, Captain. What seems to be the problem with your ship?" Velthar's expression was difficult to read, but there seemed to be a mixture of curiosity and skepticism in his glowing eyes. "The primary engine matrix has suffered a cascade failure. The problem began 3 days ago and has worsened steadily." Bo-Ra activated her portable scanner and began taking readings from the ship's hull. The energy patterns were completely foreign to anything in her database, but she could detect areas of instability throughout the propulsion section. "I must ask, Captain, why did you choose our repair bay specifically? The Nexus Corporation facility on level 15 has quantum repair matrices that could probably fix your ship in hours." Velthar was quiet for a long moment. "I have spoken with other captains who have used human repair services. They claim that humans fix problems that other repair facilities cannot even detect." Woo-Jin started setting up his diagnostic equipment around the ship's engine section. The readings were unlike anything he had ever seen. The propulsion system seemed to operate by manipulating space-time itself rather than using conventional thrust. "Captain, I have to be honest with you. Your technology is far beyond anything we normally work with. Our tools and methods might seem very basic compared to what you are used to." "That is precisely why I am here," Velthar replied. "Advanced repair? Facilities use advanced diagnostic systems that follow predetermined protocols. They fix what their scanners tell them is broken and nothing more." Dae-ho began his usual inspection routine by walking around the entire ship and simply observing. He looked for anything unusual in the way the hull plates met or signs of stress in the superstructure. It was a method he had learned from his grandfather, who had been a mechanic on old Earth. Bo-Ra noticed that her scanner was picking up microfractures in the crystalline hull that seemed to follow specific patterns. The cracks were too small to affect structural integrity, but they might indicate deeper problems. Woo-Jin found something interesting near the main engine housing. There were scorch marks on the hull that looked recent, but the pattern was wrong for normal engine discharge. The burns seemed to radiate outward from multiple points, rather than following the expected exhaust pattern. Captain, can you tell us what happened before the engine problem started? Any unusual events or encounters? Velthar seemed surprised by the question. Why would that information be relevant to engine repairs? Sometimes problems have causes that are not immediately obvious. If we know what your ship experienced, we might be able to find issues that could cause future failures. The alien captain considered this for a moment. 3 days ago, we encountered a group of pirates in the Vega system. There was a brief engagement, but no serious damage was sustained. Deho nodded and made notes on his tablet. What kind of weapons did the pirates use? Standard plasma cannons and missile systems. Nothing that should have penetrated our shields. Bora found something interesting in her scanner data. The energy patterns she was detecting seemed to match the frequency of plasma weapons, but the signals were coming from inside the ship rather than external damage points. Captain, I am reading energy resonance patterns throughout your ship that match plasma weapon signatures. It looks like the energy from the pirate attack somehow got past your shields and is still affecting your systems. Velthar looked genuinely shocked. That is impossible. Our shields are impenetrable, and our diagnostic systems would have detected any internal damage. Wu Jin climbed up to examine the upper hull sections and found more evidence of energy penetration. There were microscopic pitting marks in the crystalline surface that formed subtle patterns pointing toward the engine compartment. I think I know what happened. The plasma weapons could not break through your shields, but they created harmonic resonances in your hull material. Those resonances built up over time and eventually found a way into your internal systems. Deho studied the pattern of damage and began to understand the scope of the problem. Captain, this is not just engine damage. Your entire ship has been affected by cascading energy feedback. If we only fix the engines, the problem will return within days. The alien captain stared at the 3 humans who had discovered more about his ship's condition in 1 hour than his own engineers had found in 3 days of diagnostics. His advanced civilization had spent millennia perfecting their technology, but they had forgotten how to think beyond their predetermined solutions. How is it possible that your primitive equipment can detect problems that our quantum scanners missed? Deho smiled and picked up a simple handheld device that looked ancient compared to alien technology. Our equipment is not better, Captain, but our approach is different. We do not just look for broken parts. We try to understand what caused the break and what else might be affected. Bora began mapping the energy patterns throughout the ship using her basic scanner and a lot of educated guesswork. The resonance damage was everywhere, but followed predictable paths through the crystalline structure. Wu Jin started calculating the time and materials needed for a complete repair. The job would require rebuilding major sections of the ship's internal systems and could take weeks to complete properly. Captain Velthar realized that he had stumbled onto something extraordinary. These humans, with their basic tools and simple methods, had diagnosed his ship better than the most advanced repair facilities in the galaxy. Perhaps the rumors about human ingenuity were not exaggerated after all. The next morning, Deho arrived at Repair Bay 7 to find Captain Velthar already waiting beside his damaged ship. The alien captain had spent the night researching human repair methods and seemed both fascinated and confused by what he had learned. I have reviewed your species' technical documentation, and I must admit that I do not understand your repair philosophy. Why do you focus so much on the history of damage rather than simply replacing broken components? Deho set down his coffee and smiled. Captain, imagine that you have a headache. An advanced medical scanner might detect the pain and give you medicine to stop it. But what if the headache is caused by something else like stress or poor sleep? If you only treat the pain, it will come back. Bora powered up her scanning equipment and began a more detailed examination of the ship's internal systems. She had spent hours the previous evening studying crystalline technology and had developed some theories about how the resonance damage was spreading. Captain, can you walk me through exactly what happened during the pirate attack? I need to understand the sequence of events. Velthar seemed puzzled by the request, but began describing the encounter. We detected the pirate vessels at 14:32 ship time. They opened fire immediately with plasma cannons while we raised shields and returned fire. The engagement lasted approximately 4 minutes. Wu Jin was examining the ship's hull with a magnifying device that looked primitive compared to alien technology, but was revealing details that advanced scanners had missed. The crystalline surface had tiny stress patterns that told the story of the battle. During those 4 minutes, how many times did the pirates hit your shields, and what was the intensity of each impact? The alien captain accessed his ship's memory banks and provided detailed statistics about each weapon strike. Bo-Ra fed the information into her tablet computer and began building a model of how the energy had interacted with the ship's crystalline hull. I think I understand what happened. Each plasma strike created a small resonance in your hull material. Individually, these resonances were harmless, but when they combined, they created a standing wave pattern that eventually found its way past your shields. Daeho examined Bo-Ra's calculations and nodded in agreement. Your shields are designed to stop direct energy attacks, but they cannot prevent harmonic resonance. The energy built up slowly over several hours after the battle ended. Captain Velthar studied the human analysis with growing amazement. His own engineers had sophisticated quantum computers that could model energy interactions at the subatomic level, but they had never considered the possibility of delayed harmonic damage. This explains why our diagnostic systems detected no problems immediately after the battle. The damage was still building at that time. Wu Jin discovered something else while examining the engine compartment. The resonance energy had not only damaged the propulsion systems, but it also affected the ship's artificial gravity generators and life support systems. The problems were subtle, but would become serious within days. Captain, we need to do a complete systems check of your entire ship. The harmonic resonance has created weaknesses throughout your vessel that could lead to multiple system failures. Bo-Ra began scanning each major system individually and found evidence of resonance damage everywhere. The ship's crystalline structure had acted like a giant tuning fork carrying harmful vibrations to every corner of the vessel. How is it possible that such a minor battle could cause so much hidden damage? Velthar asked. Daeho thought for a moment before answering. Captain, your ship is built for perfection. Every component is precisely tuned and calibrated to work in ideal conditions. But space combat is not ideal. The plasma strikes created chaos in your perfectly ordered systems. Human ships are built differently. We expect things to go wrong, so we design redundancy and flexibility into everything. When our ships take damage, the problems are usually obvious and easy to fix. Bo-Ra found a perfect example of this principle when she examined the ship's power distribution network. The crystalline conduits were incredibly efficient but had no tolerance for irregular energy flows. A human ship would have circuit breakers and backup systems to handle power surges. Your power grid is like a river flowing through a perfectly straight channel. It works beautifully until something disturbs the flow. Then the whole system backs up and floods. Wu Jin started developing a repair plan that would address not just the immediate damage, but also the underlying vulnerability that had caused the problems. The solution would require modifying the ship's systems to handle unexpected stresses. We can fix your ship, Captain, but the repairs will require some changes to your original design. We will need to add what humans call shock absorbers to your key systems. Captain Velthar was torn between his desire to restore his ship to perfect working order and his growing understanding that perfection itself might be the problem. What kind of changes are you suggesting? Daeho pulled up a schematic on his tablet and showed the alien captain a human ship's power distribution system. See these extra circuits and bypass routes. They make the system less efficient, but much more stable when things go wrong. Your crystalline hull is beautiful and incredibly strong, but it transmits vibrations too perfectly. We need to add some materials that will absorb energy instead of passing it along. Bo-Ra had been thinking about the problem from a different angle. Captain, there is another issue we need to discuss. Your diagnostic systems failed to detect this damage because they only look for expected failure modes. Human operators learn to recognize unusual problems. What do you mean by unusual problems? Wu Jin climbed down from the engine compartment covered in crystalline dust. Human ships break in unexpected ways all the time. We learn to listen for strange noises and feel for unusual vibrations. Our diagnostic equipment is less sophisticated, but our operators are more experienced with chaos. Captain Velthar walked around his ship and tried to see it through human eyes. The vessel that had seemed like a masterpiece of engineering now looked fragile and inflexible. Are you saying that our advanced technology is actually inferior to your simpler systems? Not inferior, Captain, just different. Your technology is optimized for perfect conditions. Human technology is optimized for imperfect reality. Bora began explaining her repair plan in detail. The work would require 3 weeks and would involve installing human-designed backup systems throughout the ship. The modifications would make the vessel less elegant but far more reliable. We will need to add shock dampeners to your hull structure to prevent harmonic resonance. The power grid will get bypass circuits and surge protectors. Your diagnostic systems will be supplemented with human-style monitoring equipment. Wu Jin showed the captain samples of the materials they would use. The components looked crude compared to crystalline technology, but had been tested in the harsh conditions of real space combat. These modifications will reduce your ship's theoretical maximum efficiency by approximately 3%, but they will prevent the kind of cascade failure you just experienced. Captain Velthar made his decision. Proceed with the repairs as you have outlined. I am beginning to understand why other captains speak so highly of human engineering services. Daeho smiled and shook the alien captain's hand again. We will take good care of your ship, Captain. When we are finished, it may not be as perfect as before, but it will be much more reliable. As the human repair team began their work, Captain Velthar sent a message to his superiors, explaining what he had learned. The response was skeptical, but the growing reputation of human repair services was becoming impossible to ignore. The repairs would teach both species valuable lessons about the difference between perfection and reliability. 1 week into the repairs, Daeho made a discovery that changed everything. While installing shock dampeners in the ship's lower hull, he found microscopic cracks in the crystalline structure that had nothing to do with the recent battle damage. These cracks were old and followed patterns that suggested a fundamental problem with the hull design itself. Bora confirmed the discovery with her scanner and found similar stress fractures throughout the ship. The patterns were subtle and would never show up on standard diagnostic equipment, but they told a troubling story about the vessel's long-term structural integrity. Captain, we need to talk about something important. These stress fractures in your hull are not from the pirate attack. They are much older and suggest that your ship has been slowly weakening for years. Captain Velthar examined the areas that Bora indicated but could see nothing wrong with his naked eyes. The crystalline hull looked perfect and flawless, just as it had when the ship was first built 50 years ago. That is impossible. Our hull material is virtually indestructible, and our maintenance records show no signs of structural degradation. Wu Jin had been studying the crack patterns and had developed a theory about their cause. Captain, these fractures are caused by thermal cycling. Every time your ship moves between different temperature zones, the hull expands and contracts slightly. Over decades of service, these tiny expansions and contractions have created stress points in your crystalline structure. The material is so hard that instead of flexing, it eventually cracks. Hyun Soo Choi arrived from the materials engineering section, carrying samples of different hull materials. She had been called in to analyze the crystalline composition and had found several concerning properties. Captain, your hull material is incredibly strong under ideal conditions, but it has zero tolerance for thermal stress. Look at this comparison with human hull plating. She showed Velthar 2 metal samples under a microscope. The crystalline material had a perfect molecular structure, while the human steel looked rough and irregular. Your material is like a diamond, perfect but brittle. Our steel is like rubber, flexible and tough. When space debris hits your hull, the crystalline structure can crack completely. When the same debris hits our steel hull, it just dents and absorbs the impact energy. Daeho realized that they were dealing with a much larger problem than simple battle damage. The entire design philosophy of the crystalline hegemony was based on achieving perfect molecular structures that looked impressive but could not handle real-world stresses. Captain, how often do your ships require hull replacement? Velthar accessed his civilization's maintenance database and found records going back thousands of years. Major hull sections are typically replaced every 100 years as part of routine maintenance, and you consider this normal? Of course. All materials degrade over time and must be renewed. Bora laughed and shook her head. Captain, human ships routinely operate for centuries without hull replacement. Some of our oldest vessels are over 500 years old and still structurally sound. The alien captain stared at her in disbelief. That is impossible. Your technology is far less advanced than ours. Yunsu pulled up images of ancient human ships that were still in service. These vessels have been through countless battles and hazards, but their flexible hull design allows them to absorb damage without critical failure. Your crystalline hulls are beautiful and theoretically superior, but they cannot adapt to the chaos of real space travel. Wu Jin made another disturbing discovery while examining the ship's internal systems. The quantum processing units that controlled navigation and life support were showing signs of gradual degradation that had been ignored for decades. Captain, your ship's computer systems are slowly losing efficiency. The quantum crystals are accumulating microscopic flaws that affect processing speed and accuracy. Min Ho Song arrived with specialized diagnostic equipment for analyzing quantum computer systems. His readings confirmed that the ship's artificial intelligence was operating at only 60% of its original capacity. How long has your ship been experiencing minor navigation errors and system glitches? Captain Velthar thought back over the years of service and realized that his ship had indeed been suffering from increasingly frequent small problems. We attributed those issues to normal aging of quantum systems. Captain, there is nothing normal about this level of degradation. Your quantum crystals are failing because they were grown to perfect specifications that cannot handle real-world quantum fluctuations. Minho showed the alien captain how human computer systems used deliberately imperfect components that could adapt and self-correct when exposed to cosmic radiation and quantum interference. Your computers are like precision watches. They work perfectly in laboratory conditions, but fail when subjected to the harsh environment of space. Human computers are like mechanical clocks, less elegant, but far more reliable under adverse conditions. Dae Ho began to understand the full scope of the problem facing the crystalline hegemony. Their entire technological civilization was built on the pursuit of perfect theoretical performance, while ignoring practical reliability. Captain, we need to expand our repair plan significantly. Your ship needs more than just battle damage repair. It needs a complete reliability upgrade. The modifications would take months instead of weeks and would require rebuilding major systems throughout the vessel. The cost would be enormous, but the alternative was accepting that the ship would continue to degrade until it eventually suffered catastrophic failure. Bora developed a comprehensive plan for retrofitting the crystalline vessel with human reliability, engineering principles. The work would make the ship look less perfect, but would extend its operational life by centuries. We will need to replace sections of your hull with composite materials that can flex under stress. The quantum computer systems will be upgraded with adaptive error correction. Your power grid will get redundant pathways and surge protection. Wu Jin calculated that the total modifications would reduce the ship's maximum theoretical performance by approximately 8%, but would improve actual real-world reliability by over 300%. Captain Velthar faced a difficult decision. He could accept the extensive modifications and return to his fleet with a ship that looked less impressive, but performed better than ever. Or he could settle for minimum repairs and hope that his vessel would not suffer another cascade failure. If I approve these modifications, what will my superiors think when they see human technology integrated into a hegemony warship? Dae Ho smiled and gestured toward the busy repair bay where his team was working with dedication and skill that impressed even an advanced alien captain. Captain, they will think that you were smart enough to choose function over appearance and reliability over perfection. Yun Su had been analyzing the crystalline hull material and had developed a hybrid approach that would preserve the ship's distinctive appearance while adding flexibility and toughness. We can embed flexible polymer fibers in your crystalline structure. The hull will still look like crystal, but will have the resilience of human composite materials. Min Ho had a similar solution for the computer systems. We can add adaptive algorithms to your quantum processors that will allow them to compensate for degradation and interference without losing the advanced capabilities you depend on. Captain Velthar made his choice and authorized the complete reliability upgrade. The work would take 4 months and would cost more than building a new ship, but it would prove that human engineering principles could enhance even the most advanced alien technology. As word of the extensive modifications spread through the space station, other alien captains began to take notice and wonder if their own perfect ships might benefit from human improvements. 3 months after Captain Velthar's ship had been completely rebuilt, word of the modifications spread through the galaxy faster than anyone had expected. The crystalline hegemony's most advanced warship was now operating at performance levels that exceeded its original specifications, while showing none of the gradual degradation that plagued other vessels of its class. Captain Zexandra of the Biomechanical Collective arrived at Kepler Station in a ship that looked more like a living creature than a mechanical vessel. Her ship's hull pulsed with organic rhythms and seemed to breathe as it moved through space. The technology was completely different from crystalline engineering, but faced similar problems with long-term reliability. I have heard remarkable things about human repair methods, and I wish to see if your techniques can help with biological ship systems. Deho walked around the organic vessel and marveled at its beauty and complexity. The hull was covered with what looked like scales or skin, and there were no visible mechanical components anywhere on the surface. Young Suk Han had been recently assigned to the repair bay and specialized in biological systems engineering. She approached the living ship with the same systematic methodology that had proven so effective with crystalline technology. "Captain, can you describe the problems your ship is experiencing?" Zexandra gestured toward sections of the hull that looked slightly different from the rest. "Over the past several years, our ship has been losing efficiency and responsiveness. The biological systems seem to be evolving in ways that reduce performance. Our scientists call it evolutionary decay. The living components of our ships gradually optimize themselves for survival rather than function." Bora began scanning the ship's biological systems and found energy patterns that were completely unlike anything she had encountered before. The vessel's metabolism was incredibly complex with millions of interconnected biological processes. "This is fascinating. Your ship is literally alive with its own immune system and growth patterns." Young Suk studied the scanner readings and began to understand the nature of the problem. "Captain, I think your ship is suffering from over-optimization. The biological systems have been bred for maximum efficiency for so many generations that they have lost the ability to adapt to stress." "What do you mean by lost the ability to adapt?" Wu Jin had been examining the ship's organic hull and found areas where the living tissue had become so specialized that it could only function under perfect conditions. Any deviation from optimal temperature or pressure caused the biological systems to shut down completely. "Captain, imagine a racehorse that has been bred for speed for many generations. Eventually, you get a horse that can run very fast but breaks down easily and cannot survive in the wild. Your ship's biological systems are like that racehorse. They perform perfectly under ideal conditions, but have no resilience when things go wrong." Xiong Wan Kang arrived from the agricultural section of the space station, bringing expertise in biological adaptation and genetic diversity. He had worked with Earth's ecosystem restoration projects and understood how to balance efficiency with resilience. "The solution is to reintroduce controlled genetic chaos into your ship's biological systems. We need to deliberately reduce efficiency in order to increase adaptability." Captain Zexandra was horrified by the suggestion. "You want to make our ship less efficient on purpose. That goes against everything our civilization believes about biological optimization." Young Suk tried to explain the concept in terms that an alien captain could understand. "Captain, efficiency and reliability are not the same thing. A system can be very efficient under perfect conditions but completely useless when conditions change. Human biological systems are less efficient than yours, but they can adapt to almost any environment. Our bodies can survive temperature extremes and dietary changes that would kill more specialized organisms." Sung Wan showed the captain examples from Earth's evolutionary history. "Species that become too perfectly adapted to specific environments always go extinct when conditions change. The species that survive are the ones that maintain flexibility and redundancy." Bora found evidence of this principle throughout the alien ship's biological systems. The living components had been optimized for efficiency to such an extent that they had lost all backup mechanisms and alternative pathways. Your ship's biological systems have no redundancy. If any component fails, the entire network collapses. Human biological systems have multiple backup systems for every critical function. Wu Jin discovered that the ship's organic hull could not repair itself when damaged, because the repair mechanisms had been bred out in favor of more efficient structural proteins. Captain, your ship cannot heal itself because the healing systems were considered wasteful and were eliminated during the optimization process. Young Suk developed a plan for reintroducing genetic diversity and redundancy into the ship's biological systems. The process would involve adding what she called controlled imperfections that would allow the organism to adapt and self-repair. We will need to seed your ship's biological matrix with genetic variants that are less efficient, but more robust. These variants will remain dormant under normal conditions, but will activate when the ship faces stress or damage. Captain Zexandra struggled with the concept of deliberately making her perfect ship less perfect. Will these modifications reduce our ship's performance? Xionghuan nodded honestly. In optimal conditions, your ship will be approximately 5% less efficient than before, but in real-world conditions it will be hundreds of times more reliable and will be able to adapt to situations that would currently cause complete system failure. The biomechanical collective had never considered that their pursuit of biological perfection might be making their ships more fragile rather than stronger. The idea that controlled chaos could improve performance challenged their fundamental understanding of evolution. Meanwhile, other alien ships had begun arriving at Kepler Station after hearing about the successful modifications to Captain Velthar's crystalline warship. Each species brought their own unique technologies and their own unique problems caused by over-optimization. Captain Morduk of the Silicon Confederacy brought a ship made entirely of geometric metal structures that looked like a mathematical equation translated into physical form. Every angle was perfect, and every surface was precisely calculated for maximum efficiency. Our ships are designed using pure mathematical principles with no wasted space or unnecessary components. Recently, we have been experiencing structural failures that our models cannot predict. Daeho examined the geometrically perfect vessel and immediately spotted the problem. Captain, your ship has no tolerance for manufacturing variations or material inconsistencies. Real-world materials are never mathematically perfect. The Silicon ship's problems were caused by the same pursuit of perfection that affected other alien technologies. The mathematical precision that looked impressive could not handle the chaotic reality of space travel. Captain Yilthara of the Energy Beings brought a ship made of pure energy fields that had no physical components at all. Her vessel faced different problems, but the root cause was the same overspecialization and lack of adaptability. Our energy ships are incredibly efficient, but they cannot interface with physical matter without losing coherence. We require energy-based space stations and cannot land on planets or dock with solid structures. Young Suk realized that every alien species they encountered had made the same fundamental mistake. They had optimized their technologies for theoretical perfect performance while ignoring practical reliability and adaptability. All of these problems have the same cause. You have all achieved perfection in laboratory conditions, but perfection cannot survive in the real world. As more alien captains arrived seeking human repairs, the repair bay expanded into a center for interspecies engineering collaboration. Each successful modification proved that human principles of robust imperfection could improve even the most advanced alien technologies. The galaxy was beginning to learn that sometimes the best solution was the one that worked when everything else failed. 2 years after the first alien ship had docked at Repair Bay 7, Kepler Station had transformed into the most important engineering facility in the galaxy. What had started as a small human repair operation now hosted representatives from dozens of alien civilizations, all seeking to learn the principles of reliable design. Admiral Haewon Yoon of the Human Space Navy stood in the observation deck, watching alien ships of every imaginable design waiting in orderly lines for human engineering services. Some vessels were made of crystal, others of living tissue, and still others of pure energy. But all shared the same fundamental problem with over-optimization. Daeho had been promoted to Director of Interspecies Engineering and now oversaw a staff of hundreds of human engineers working alongside alien technicians. The collaboration had produced innovations that neither species could have achieved alone. Admiral, when we started this project, I never imagined it would grow so large. We are now modifying ships from civilizations that are thousands of years more advanced than humanity. Admiral Yoon smiled as she watched a massive geometric vessel from the Silicon Confederacy being fitted with human-designed flexible joints that would allow its mathematically perfect structure to bend without breaking. Director Kim, what you have accomplished here goes beyond simple repairs. You have shown the galaxy that there is wisdom in imperfection and strength in flexibility. Bora had become the head of the new diagnostic philosophy department, where she taught alien engineers how to think beyond their programmed repair protocols. Her students learned to ask questions about operational history and environmental factors that their advanced computers ignored. The most important lesson we teach is that perfect diagnostic equipment can only find perfect problems. Real-world failures are messy and chaotic and require human intuition to understand. Her current class included crystalline engineers who were learning to recognize stress patterns that their quantum scanners missed, and biomechanical specialists, discovering how to detect evolutionary drift in their living ships. Woojin had established the Reliability Engineering Institute, where alien designers learned to build controlled weaknesses into their perfect systems. The concept was difficult for species that had spent millennia pursuing flawless optimization. We teach them that a chain is only as strong as its weakest link, but a smart engineer chooses where that weak link will be. If something has to break, it should break in a way that does not destroy the entire system. His most successful project involved redesigning crystalline hull structures with deliberate stress concentration points that would crack in predictable patterns rather than suffering catastrophic shattering. Young Suk had become the galaxy's leading expert in controlled chaos engineering. Her biological modification techniques were being applied to ships from dozens of species that had over-optimized their living systems. The secret is maintaining genetic diversity even when it seems inefficient. A biological system that can only function in perfect conditions will eventually face conditions that kill it completely. Her work had saved hundreds of biomechanical ships that were slowly dying from evolutionary decay and had established new principles for sustainable biological engineering. Hyun-soo led the material science revolution that was changing how alien civilizations thought about structural design. Her hybrid materials combined the best properties of different technologies while eliminating their individual weaknesses. Perfect materials are brittle materials. The strongest structures are made from components that can bend and flex and absorb energy instead of transmitting it. Her crystalline polymer composites gave alien ships the beauty of perfect crystal, combined with the toughness of human engineering. The materials looked flawless but contained deliberate imperfections that prevented catastrophic failure. Minho had revolutionized computer system design throughout the galaxy by introducing adaptive error correction algorithms to species that had never considered the possibility of hardware failures. Alien computer systems are designed to work perfectly forever, but forever is a very long time in a chaotic universe. Human computers are designed to keep working even when components start failing. His self-healing quantum processors could maintain functionality even after suffering significant damage and had proven essential for long-duration space missions. Seung-won's biological adaptation protocols had been adopted by 3 different alien species and had resulted in living ships that could evolve and adapt to new environments instead of slowly decaying over time. Evolution is not about achieving perfection. Evolution is about maintaining the ability to change when change becomes necessary. Captain Velthar returned to Kepler Station in his modified crystalline warship, which had become legendary throughout the galaxy for its incredible reliability and performance. The vessel had survived battles and hazards that would have destroyed any unmodified ship. Director Kim, your modifications have made my ship the envy of the entire hegemony fleet. We are now retrofitting our entire navy with human reliability principles. Other alien captains shared similar success stories. Captain Zexandra reported that her biologically modified ship had successfully adapted to 6 different hostile environments that would have killed her original vessel. Captain Morduk's geometrically perfect ship had survived a direct collision with an asteroid field thanks to the flexible joints that allowed its mathematical structure to bend instead of shatter. The transformation was not limited to individual ships. Entire civilizations were rethinking their approach to technology and engineering. The crystalline hegemony had established new design standards that balanced perfection with practicality. The biomechanical collective had begun preserving genetic diversity in their living ships instead of optimizing every characteristic for maximum efficiency. The Silicon Confederacy had modified their mathematical design principles to include tolerance ranges and flexibility factors that their perfect equations had never considered. Jamin Lim had been appointed as the first director of the Galactic Engineering Institute, which would standardize and spread human reliability principles throughout civilized space. We are not trying to make alien technology more like human technology. We are trying to help every species build better versions of their own designs. His inaugural address to the Galactic Council explained the fundamental principles that had made human repairs so successful. Perfection is the enemy of reliability. The best system is not the one that works perfectly under ideal conditions, but the one that continues working when conditions become chaotic. Every technology should be designed with the assumption that something will go wrong. The question is not whether your system will face unexpected stress, but whether it will survive that stress and continue functioning. Redundancy and flexibility are not signs of inferior design. They are essential characteristics of any system that must operate in the real world for extended periods. The galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest contribution was not advanced technology, but advanced thinking about technology. Human engineers did not build better ships, but they built ships that stayed better longer. Admiral Yoon watched as the latest group of alien engineering students graduated from the Human Reliability Training Program and prepared to return to their homeworlds with new knowledge about robust design principles. Director Kim, do you realize what you have accomplished here? You have not just repaired ships, you have repaired an entire galaxy's approach to engineering. Daeho looked out at the bustling station where humans and aliens worked together solving problems that had plagued advanced civilizations for thousands of years. Admiral, we have shown the galaxy something important. Sometimes the most advanced solution is the one that admits it is not perfect and prepares for that imperfection. The human approach to engineering had become the new standard for reliable design throughout civilized space. Species that had pursued perfection for millennia were now learning the wisdom of controlled imperfection and the strength that comes from expecting things to go wrong. In the end, humanity's gift to the galaxy was not superior technology, but superior philosophy about how technology should work in an imperfect universe, where reliability mattered more than theoretical performance, and where the best solution was always the one that continued working when everything else failed.